welcome back to my channel. I have another DIY to share with you. This time it will be a little bit different than the last two that I shared, and if you guys haven't seen those, I'm gonna be putting those down in the description in case you guys want to go and see how I did those walls. I am doing a geometric wall, but this time I will be using wood. This project in particular is a little bit different and super special to me because I did it all by myself. I've always done projects, but it's always with the supervision of my husband. But this time I did it all by myself, and I'm like super proud of myself. So if that is something you want to see, then just keep on watching. I started by going to Lowe's first and got 8 pieces that they were 1 inch 3/8 by 5/8. I already had an idea of how many pieces I was going to need because I first kind of sketched a design onto the wall without painting, and this was sort of the design that we were going for. It wasn't 100% the design that we wanted, and eventually we end up doing or redoing a design on a piece of paper. I first started by putting a coat of black paint that is going to be our base for the wall. I didn't want to share with you guys the rest of the room because we did the same process as we did with the other rooms. We went with a cotton white, and again, all of the materials that I end up using are going to be down in the description in case you guys want to do the same color or maybe want to use the color in a different project. But yeah, I end up using a Tricon black on the wall, and I didn't have to prime this wall because it was a dark color, so it wasn't really needing the primer. This color, it was perfect for him because he's a teen, and I feel that these are like the colors that he would love in his room, sort of like a modern design, and this is the way it looks. We end up with this wall to be the accent again because once you come into the room, that's the first wall that you will see onto your right side. And another thing that I did different in here is that I took the tape out right away when I was done painting. I would probably only waited like 15 minutes, and then I end up taking all the tape. I didn't want to make the same mistake and had all the bleed through from the black paint, and that actually worked perfectly. Once I was done with the wall, I started painting all of my pieces of wood in the orange color. That is going to be the other color that we're going to be using. And then my husband helped me in here to do the center of the wall. We were actually going to do the design again on the wall, and we did use some chalk paint, so that way we were able to take it out easily. Then we decided to switch the design, and I end up doing everything else all by myself. So this project, it's actually super special to me because it is the first time that I do a project like this all by myself with no help at all. And so I'm really proud of myself because you will see at the end how amazing it turned out, and I'm like super proud of myself that I did it all by myself. So if you've never worked with wood or to do type of designs like this, don't be scared because yes, it could be intimidated at the beginning, but then once you start doing it, you kind of end up liking it. And that's how I feel right now. Like I feel like now after doing this design, I'm like ready to do another wood design. And I did use the level and measured all the lines to get the right width. Now the first design that you guys saw in the piece of paper, it's going to be completely different. I was trying to make a design on the wall first, and then I was asking my son if he liked it or not, and just for him to give me a thumbs up on the design. And we end up moving the design a couple of times, and here you can see that I am making some triangles and see if he likes it or not. But then at the end, you will see that we end up with no triangles at all. All we did was horizontal and vertical lines. And then the 2 lines that you see on the top, we were going to put the bottom line, but then we kind of end up not messing up because we did fix it afterwards, but our intention was to use the bottom line because eventually the way that this design end up looking, it's because he wants to put a smaller TV in the middle. He has a TV, but it is pretty big and he doesn't like it that big. So we were trying to make a square where he was able to fit a smaller TV and still see the design through the outside. So hopefully we're able to get him a TV that you are still going to be able to see the design on the inside. And in here you can see that this is so far how we have the design. I know I said at the beginning that I did all horizontal and vertical lines, but yes, you can still see a few triangles on the corners. And our intention wasn't to put triangles. They just came out that way when we were doing the horizontal and vertical lines, but we end up liking it. It is time now to put the first piece of wood onto the wall, and I end up going with this one first. I did cut it a little bit because it is 8 feet long, and the measurement on this one was only 6 feet. This is what I was talking about, that the line that we were supposed to use was the bottom. And later you will see that there is a lot of chalk paint onto the wall differently, because I end up making the same design but adjusting it a little bit differently. And I did use the level to make sure that the lines were straight, at least the square, and then from there, that was pretty much my guide for the rest of the lines. Here is where I was talking about how proud I am of myself, because I was so scared that I was going to mess up with the 45-degree angle, but they came out perfectly. The only time that I needed some help in here was with the taller ones. I wasn't able to reach all the way to the top, and my son helped me a little bit in here. I did use a nail gun to do all the wood. I know that you're able to use some wood glue, but I didn't want it to use that. I ended up just using the nail gun, and again, use the level throughout the whole time that I was putting the wood, just to make sure that they were straight and right where I want it. This entire process took me 3 days. I thought it was going to take me less, the same as with the other projects that I've done in my other kids' rooms. But because I did use wood in here and I was doing all the cuts by myself, I was overthinking it. Like, I was practicing with different wood because I didn't want to mess it up. And that's kind of like a tip that I would give you if you have never worked with a miter saw. It's better for you to practice before making the actual cut, so that way you don't mess up your actual wood. And that's what I did. I practiced a lot at the beginning, and until I was able to figure it out how I needed the cuts, then I would do it on the actual wood. And I know that I did mess up in a few cuts, not the cuts, but actually in the areas that it was painting. All the way to the top, you can see that the bottom line it's orange, and then the top one it's not painted, and that's because I made the cut differently and I end up cutting the wrong side. It still ended up working, but now I had to repaint it, even though I will have to redo the painting at the end. But my goal was to paint all the wood before putting onto the wall, and that way I was just able to do a retouch after putting all of the wood putting and sanding it, and it was just going to be a little bit more easy. But since at the end I end up buying more wood, because with the design that we switch, we end up needing more wood, so it all worked out at the end. This is the final design. We are not going to add any more wood. Yesterday I was thinking on adding a few more boards in there, but Xavier liked it this way, so we're gonna leave it like that. All I have to do right now is just finish painting, finish putting the wood filler and sand it, and so that way this wall can be complete, and definitely paint the bottom part white so it can be complete. So let's get to painting again. And then the wood filler that I'm using is this color changing one. It is pink when you open it, but once it dries, it turns into like a skin color or brown, light brown. Another thing that I know that I have to do it differently next time, it's to not use my hands. I know that it's a better, or at least I felt that it was working better for me using my hands, but I end up using a lot, and by the time that I was sanding it, it was a lot of mess. Even though I did clean it, but next time I know that instead of using my hands, I will probably use like a spatula or maybe like a scraper, so that way I'm only putting the wood filler inside of the wood and not on the outside. Something that I feel like I did wrong, it's I put too much of the wood filler, and if you can see a lot of dust that I have to vacuum. I started using this electrical one, but then I move on to this one. This is just a regular like hand sander, but I put the piece of sand a piece of paper sander in here, and then this is what I used. And then by this time, it was just time for me to clean all the dust that I made once I was done with sanding. I did use the all-purpose cleaner and then just a fiber cloth to take all the dust. At the beginning, I was kind of scared that I was going to take all the paint off from the wall, but it'll work out. And I was kind of testing it because I was worried that it was going to take off the paint since it was still sort of wet, but no, it actually worked completely. It's not a matte paint, it's semi-gloss paint, so it is easy for you to clean it and take all the dust away from it. I did use the foam roller to paint all of the wood and a few synthetic brushes. I did use the smaller for do the detailings on the outside, and then a bigger one to paint the wood. But then after, I end up using the foam roller again on the top so it wouldn't have all of the streaks with the synthetic brush. And I also did a few retouches on the black wall because I end up having a few drips of the orange color. It looks amazing with the black and orange, and you will see at the end how it looks. If you're not part of the family, subscribe so you can be part of it. Also, hit the like button if you enjoy this video. Turn on your bell notification so that way you can be notified when I upload the next video. Right now, I am construction mode in all of the rooms, and we will be continuing uploading more of this type of video. So if you like this type of content, subscribe, become part of the family, hit the like button again, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.